Hey guys, welcome to week 4 of Wannabe Studs. Got some good matchups this week, hopefully as good as last week. Alright, like every time we start a new week, gotta start off with those waiver wire pickups. Now, some of the big ones this week was Carry on My Wayward Son lost Jimmy Garoppolo for the year to an ACL tear, but he picked up Baker Mayfield for $16 on the waiver wire. Good hit or miss guy to fill in. He's going to carry that Browns team to some wins, some good points, especially after last week showing he can do it.
So what you're saying is I might just carry on my wayward son. I've been waiting to break out the actual song. TM, copyright, whatever.
All right. Now, some of the other ones were My Ball Zach Ertz picked up Tyler Boyd and dropped Will Dissly. That's not a bad pickup. Boyd's been getting some good looks and some good points, so I agree with it.
So yeah, Tyler Boyd's been the wide receiver 2 in that team, and AJ Green hurt his groin last week. Could be, the wide receiver 1 if he decides not to play this week. So I love it.
All right, so the next one he had was he picked up Vance McDonald, who's been getting a lot of looks on Pittsburgh's offense, and dropped Cole Beasley. He's a Dallas fan, so I know dropping Cole Beasley wasn't an easy decision, but he hasn't been getting anything this year. So picking up Vance McDonald's good.
This is a hard league for tight ends because it seems everybody has rostered 2 tight ends, and so if you want a new one, you're going to be picking from some low-end guys. Vance McDonald's a fantastic pick. Obviously splitting time with Jesse James, but I do believe in Vance more than Jesse James. You've been wanting Cole Beasley in one of your leagues. He stole him from you in like 3 different drafts. This is your chance, dude.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't do it.
Well, we'll get to that later. Cooking with Class picked up Ben Watson and dropped Jesse James. Again, going back to the Pittsburgh tight ends, Jesse James hasn't been the one that they're looking at this year. It's Vance McDonald. And so, good pickups. Ben Watson had a huge look in New Orleans last week. Drew Brees going off. Hopefully the offense continues and he gets those looks that he deserves for the old 38-year-old.
I think if you ever have to start Ben Watson, you're looking real weak at tight ends. Let's put it that way.
Like you said, deep league with tight ends. But another good pickup he had. He picked up Theo Riddick, who, even though Carry-On's looking to be the number 1 guy, he had Peyton Barber. I think Riddick's probably a better option this year than Barber is, especially with those performances.
Oh my God, he's such a bad running back.
All right, Pat Mahomes show, one of the top teams in the league, dropped Rashad Penny. I like it.
Risky.
I already like it. Chris Carson's probably the better guy there anyways. But he picked up Christian Kirk for Arizona. It's an interesting pickup because he's a younger guy. He hasn't had huge games, but he's looked pretty good, and he has a lot of upside this year.
I love this pickup. If you look up the amount of targets and percentage that he's targeted on this team, it's comparable to Fitz, and they're not going to throw as strong corners on this rookie. So I kind of love it. I think that right now you're just seeing the beginning of Christian Kirk, and second half of the season we could be talking about how this was one of the pickups of the league. I'm not saying it will be, and I'm not saying it has a high percentage to be, but I'm saying there's a chance for it to be something like that.
Alright, and the last team that made some moves this week was me, with my new name, All Barkley No Bite. Guys, the reason I changed it, I dropped Dante Moncrief. Jags haven't been looking at him at all, and he hasn't been doing well, so I had to get rid of him. And for that, I'm giving my man Saquon the right to my team name. Now, I dropped Moncrief and Rex Burkhead, who passed place on IR. And with Sony Michel coming back and looking good like that, and with James White in that pass game, I don't feel like Burkhead probably was going to be in the offense enough to keep him as one of my top running backs. So, 2 of the guys I picked up, Tavon Austin, who, even though Dallas' offense hasn't been looking good, looks to be one of their better receivers. And with those end arounds, those jet sweeps, and with kick returns, punt returns, you never know. Tavon could go off in weeks, especially later in the season when I got some buys and maybe able to just throw him in at flex every now and then.
So the best part about Tavon Austin is the fact that he's labeled as a wide receiver and a running back. So I think that's one of the better reasons to have him. If you really need to plug someone in for any position for any bye week, there's Tavon Austin. I'm sad to see you lose your name because I know you're a big Pokemon fan.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I think it was for the best. I think
Definitely.
anybody is going to pick up Burkhead that sees him and try to stash him on their IR. But there's a thing called just placing mines into the waiver wire. And that's someone that everybody you think is gonna, try to bid high to grab, but they're just gonna stay on their bench the entire time. So you might have just dropped a mine. People might be bidding upwards of $20 for a Burkhead for just to never start him.
So guys, if you're watching this video, be careful with him. If you're watching and you think we're right about him being a mine out there, be careful when you're trying to pick him up, especially even if it's later in the season. You never know. And if you don't, and if you're someone who's not watching this video, not getting this message, but you might have just spent $25 on someone you're never gonna play. All right, and the other guy I picked up was Chris Ivory. With LaShawn McCoy being hurt, especially a rib injury, that's kind of tough, especially in football when you're getting hit there a lot. Ivory didn't put up bad numbers last week, so getting a replacement for Burkhead honestly was all I was thinking right there. And the last thing I did was I picked up Seattle's defense for the week. They're going against Arizona, whose offense is the worst right now in the NFL, so that's more just a matchup thing instead of me thinking Seattle is that good. But
So are you looking just to redraft your entire team, or?
Last time I redrafted my entire team, I actually ended up doing pretty good, except for my running back, so you never know.
Everybody says you don't win your league at the draft, and this is proof. You trade your entire team away for a waiver wire, you just go, all in, and that's how you gotta do it.
Yep.
Admit your mistakes.
All right, guys. So now let's get to the matchups for the week. We've actually got some pretty good ones, and we've only disagreed on one matchup this week, and that's the first one we're going over, where I picked myself to win because I've got confidence.
Alright, guys, so this is Brian, so Ramsey's all-suck team versus Steve, all Barkley, no bite. It's predicted that Ramsey's all-suck team is supposed to get 127 points, while Steve's only predicted to get 117. I think the big names we need to talk about for Ramsey's all-suck team is Zeke. I really believe this is one of the weeks he's going to go off and, Zeke's going to eat. Carson Wentz. He didn't do that great last week. This will be an interesting name to watch because he may click with this offense better, but he still has a lot of his receivers hurt, so it kind of, makes me a little shifty on it, but it's a ballsy play and I respect it. Then Kittle. I really want to bring up this because you are playing Breida this week. And as you all know, Jimmy G was hurt. And so that leaves, a backup QB who's going to be looking for a safety valve. And it's really going to be interesting to see whether or not that safety valve is the tight end Kittle or their pass-catching running back with Breida. It'll be really interesting because I think that could make or break the matchup. So I like watching this. For the first week of it, we're really going to just dive right in. Other big names for Barkley is Devontae Adams. He's going against Buffalo. I'm going to call that Buffalo doesn't suddenly become a good team, and that last week was a fluke. So he could see a lot of red zone targets because they could be in the red zone quite a lot. And then Chris Carson. He did really good last week. He got so much of the snaps and a high timeshare. He exploded last week. And he's going against Arizona, who's been a really bad defense. So if they give him as many snaps as they gave him last week, he could feast. And it could be a really good matchup for him. So I'm really looking forward to that.
The one thing I'm scared of this week with Ramsey's team is he's got Tyreek Hill and Demaryius Thomas. They're playing against each other, and if it turns into a shootout like the New Orleans-Atlanta game last week, I might get beaten by 2 players alone. That's the one thing I'm scared of.
That hurts.
But hopefully my guys can pull it off. Hopefully Amari Cooper picks it up.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Next matchup, we got my ball Zach Ertz against Carry On My Wayward Son.
Let's go.
Starting with ours early. Now, this one's predicted to be close to 118 to my ball Zach Ertz to 117 Carry On My Wayward Son. Oh, look at that, Kyle. We're predicted the same. Now, the big thing this week is my ball Zach Ertz has Josh Gordon on his bench right now. It's going to be the first week he's possibly playing for the New England Patriots in a full role. Coming off the injury in the trade, he may get some big looks. But again, it's still Josh Gordon. He's still one of the better talented receivers in the league. They might just shut him down. They might just double team him, especially knowing that Tom Brady's a pass-happy quarterback. They might just say, we're not going to let him get any touches going. So, big risk whether or not he plays him. Now, the other guy, A.J. Green, like you said in the previous video. A.J. Green, earlier, Tyler Boyd. A.J. Green, groin injury last week. If he doesn't play, that's huge. You have to start Josh Gordon then. And that just doesn't help because now you're dropping some points by starting a third wide receiver who may not be that top guy. And so it's a little bit of a risk to have him in your starting lineup right now. The other thing from Ertz, Brady didn't have a good week last week, so actually look for him to bounce back. He doesn't really have bad weeks back to back, so I think that's a good sign for you this week. And if Josh Gordon does play, there's your quarterback receiver combo for some big points. Now, Kyle, the one thing I want to talk about with you. You're starting Baker Mayfield right now.
Full send, boys. Full send.
With Russell Wilson on the bench. Now, this is a very interesting one for me because Baker Mayfield is doing well. He's going against who? The Jets this week?
He's going against the Raiders.
He's going against the Raiders this week. Not a great defense, so not a bad start. But I got to ask, why not Russ? He's a decent quarterback. Even though some of his targets are hurt right now, he's going against Arizona, who's not really a great team.
All right. I will describe this for you. So we'll start with Russ. He has his number one target out, and his offensive line is absolutely atrocious. He gets sacked. It's been just disgusting to watch. Meanwhile, on the other side of the other game, Raiders have one of the worst pass rushes in the league right now. They got rid of Khalil Mack, and John Gruden's come out and said, "Oh, it's really hard to find a pass rusher." That's because you gave one of the best ones in the game away. He's going to have a ton of time in the pocket to find his key guys. He's Jarvis, he's Antonio Callaway. Both those are fantastic talents. He's had the full week of practice as being the starter. You could see that when he came into that game, all his players, even his defense, reacted better and just played really well. And then teams don't know how to game script against him. They haven't seen him in a full game. They saw him for the end of last game. They don't know how to game script against him. So they're not going to be ready for Baker, and I am, and I'm ready for him to win me a league.
All right, so you're going with the whole they don't know the rookie, so the rookie's going to do what he wants.
He's going to have so much time in that pocket, and he has some really good receivers to work with.
All right, the one other thing for you this week, your wide receivers, you got a little issue. Chris Hogan has been performing. Also, Brady's on the other team. Deshaun Jackson, good guy, and you got Keelan Cole. Those are the three guys I'm looking at for your interchange. I think you got some big decisions to make at wide receiver this week because it's going to be it's really going to be a hit or miss week for you.
It's been like that every week, and it's so hard to choose.
Well, a little word of advice, I would sit Hogan for the week.
I'm hoping that Josh Gordon comes in, and like you say, they throw some stronger coverage on him, and who's a little bit more open? My boy, Chris Hogan.
Still, Brady's the quarterback for the other team. That's going to be tough.
That means I take away from his points and such.
All right. I got the next matchup, too. Switching up this week. Not alternating. We're just going for it. Now, this one, Patrick Mahomes Show versus Cooking with Class. We got Patrick Mahomes Show projected at 129, Cooking with Class 119. 10-point projection difference, still close. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes versus Denver's defense. I think he'll cool down just a little bit. Maybe get the numbers he had last week where they weren't as big as the first two, but he'll still be one of the better plays. He's got Keenan Allen versus San Francisco. Now, with Jimmy G being out, San Francisco is probably not going to have the ball on offense so much. So look for Keenan Allen to go off. And like we said before, he picked up Christian Kirk. And he's starting him right now.
Full send on the rookies, boys.
So this is going to be a big week for him to see how he performs. Hopefully he does well for you. Now on the other side of it, Cooking with Class has got Odell Beckham going against New Orleans. If last week's an indicator, New Orleans defense isn't that good, especially in the passing game with Calvin Ridley getting 3. Hopefully Odell can get some of those touchdowns this week and another hopefully shootout for Cooking with Class. And now this one, a little interesting. Aaron Rodgers against Buffalo. I'm not saying that he's going to do bad. But I'm saying after Buffalo gave Minnesota a tough week last week, maybe those NFC North teams are going to have a little trouble dealing with another team that likes playing in the cold in Buffalo. But I still think Aaron Rodgers is going to put up at least 25 points against this awful defense. And now, the last thing I got to say, he's got Chris Godwin or Corey Davis as his flex. I'm feeling Godwin on Tampa Bay because they're still a better team, and Tennessee's still not playing as well as they could. Last week, they didn't put up any touchdowns. What was that, 9-6 game against Jacksonville?
Oh, so ugly.
It was bad. I think Corey Davis should be on your bench this week, and Godwin should be in that starting role.
I think Godwin's a fantastic player, and if he's on your bench, that makes me sad.
So, we both picked Patrick Mahomes to win this week because, let's face it, with Mahomes and Keenan Allen, with those matchups alone, I think you have to have confidence.
I agree. Alright, so the next matchup we have is Parziale versus Just Girly Things. Parziale is predicted for 86 points. And we always mention if you're predicted under 100, usually doesn't go too well. And Just Girly Things predicted with 122, which is pretty high. Now, one thing I need to point out is that Parziale, you have Chris Thompson and Jordan Reed starting for you. They're both on byes. Games start tomorrow. You might want to start setting your lineup so that just in case you have those Thursday guys you want to replace them with, really take a look at that because maybe you'll at least get to 100 points predicted. I still don't think you'll do well. Also, you're starting the New York Jets defense. That's a risky play. They've looked okay, better than everybody expected, but I don't think it's going to really pay off for you. For Just Girly Things, obviously I'm just going to talk about Girly. He's playing against the Minnesota defense that they're missing Everson Griffin, their defensive end, so that's really going to help for when he wants to rush. And he's playing Kirk Cousins. And there's also injuries for the Rams. Aqib Talib is out, and I think Marcus Peters might be hurt too. So this could be an interesting scenario. I know that the Rams backups are better than some of the starters in other teams, so they'll still be a good defense, but it may not be as crazy as people imagine. So either way, I think me and Steve both agree that we think Just Girly Things are going to destroy Parziale, and it's not going to be that close. So I'll be happy to be proved wrong, because I love a good fantasy football matchup, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, the one thing I got to say about the matchup is I'm looking at it right now. You still got Chris Thompson, Jordan Reed, and you don't have a backup tight end on your bench, so given what's happened this week with the waiver wire, you probably don't have much options there to pick up. So expect a low score there. And on your bench, your one running back that you have available, LaShawn McCoy, who's still possibly not going to get the workload being hurt. And, honestly, it's going to be tough to pull out a win this week.
According to LaShawn, he's going to play, but of course, he said that last week too. So we'll have to see.
Still sucks that you have Le'Veon Bell who's not playing for you.
You're just salty.
I'm salty because I have him in other leagues. But I gotta say, it does feel bad. So I feel your pain.
Alright. So our next matchup is the Deflatriots versus Wannabe Winners. This is predicted to be a decently close matchup, with the Deflatriots getting 113 predicted and Wannabe Winners getting 127. There's a lot of key players to talk about in this. So starting with the Deflatriots, Jarvis Landry. I think he could do really well this game. I'm talking about my boy Baker Mayfield. Maker Bayfield. I'm thinking that, he's going to have a lot of time to throw, and who's his number one target? Jarvis Landry. Jarvis could go off this game, and it'll be really cool to see. He also has Will Fuller. We've already seen from last week that Will Fuller just seems to be having connection with Deshaun. DeAndre Hopkins pulls the best corner, and it just leaves Will Fuller to be a speed guy to get everything that I want to go to DeAndre Hopkins. So look for him to have a probably good week again. I've seen consistency, and I don't see it stopping. The two players I want to talk about specifically are your two starting running backs, Royce Freeman and Jordan Wilkins. Both of those are in a timeshare with other players, and they're not even the majority. Especially Jordan Wilkins is not seeing that much work, and then Royce Freeman, it's pretty evenly split between Philip Lindsay. He had a little bit of a boost last week because Philip Lindsay got into a fight and got ejected. Evicted out of his house. Go. So I don't see you getting many points from your running back, and that really puts you at a disadvantage in matchups. A stack that you always want to talk about when it comes to Wannabe winners is Antonio Brown and Michael Thomas. The number one drafted Antonio Brown always seems to get his, and then the number one currently fantasy wide receiver, Michael Thomas, his connection with Drew Brees has been insane. He's had 40 targets over 3 games, which is just out of this world, and he's caught, I think, 36 of them. So it's just crazy. He's just a consistent player, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Me and Steve both agree. Wannabe Winners is going to take this one. I don't see Deflatriots really pulling out anything special. And Wannabe Winners has so much talent on their team that they could just have someone who will blow up and do really well. So, good luck, but we'll see.
Only way Deflatriots pulls it out, full send on the rookies.
Full send on the rookies.
Alright guys, last matchup for the week. I know it's been a long video, but it's almost over. Got Dak Sheets back versus Tyler's team. I'm giving up on saying change your name. Maybe I'll just do it for you as commissioner.
Yeah, right? I should change my team name.
I was thinking of one, but I'm going to save it. Surprise everyone later.
Alright.
Now, Dak Sheets back's predicted to win 117 to 109. And honestly, I think it's going to be a lot more spread out than that. I think Dak Sheets back's really going to pull away. He's got Drew Brees versus the Giants. After last week, hopefully a shootout, Drew Brees can go off again for another 40 points. Hopefully it doesn't go... Well, it's not against you this week, so...
I have PTSD.
And Tyler's team's got a decision. He's got Stafford versus Dallas, and he's got Dak. And he's playing the Lions. So it's a choice. Which quarterback do you think is going to do better in the game, and that's who you play? Honestly, I have to agree with him right now. Stafford's in the starting lineup. I have to agree Stafford's probably going to get the better game out of this team.
I agree. Stafford all the way.
So now, talk about some running backs. Tyler's team's got Leonard Fournette coming back, which is huge. Now, Dak Sheets back has TJ Yeldon on their starting lineup right now. Huge in the other sense that Fournette's going to take all his carries back. So, you never know.
Fournette's not 100%. I do really think that he will play, but I also don't think that TJ Yeldon's something to be very scared of if he doesn't. Corey Grant and TJ Yeldon have really been splitting the carries when Fournette isn't healthy. So he's not a huge person that's going to gain from Fournette being out. So
Yeldon did put up double-digit points last week, and, that does make a difference. So, Fournette coming back takes away at least some of that.
A lot of it, definitely agree with that.
So, now some more running backs. Dak Sheets back has Corey Clement and Jay Ajayi on his team. Honestly, I think that's something we've got to watch all year, the Philly running backs. And I think it's just going to be a game-time decision how you feel, which one's going to do better. Because Ajayi's still isn't a bad running back. Clement's not the best, but honestly, it's a toss-up for me.
I think if Ajayi's healthy, you start him. I think he really has Clement as more of a handcuff, but because he's been hurt, so to start his backup really works well. So I think it's more he's worried about the health risk and he wants to get those points either way, and I really respect it.
Yeah. So Dak Sheets back has another issue. He's got Jimmy Graham and Kyle Rudolph. Honestly, Rudolph last week didn't get a lot of points because their team didn't score. But I mean, Jimmy Graham on Green Bay, even though he's got Aaron Rodgers and he's going against Buffalo, I don't know what he does. He's going against a bad defense, but he still hasn't been getting the looks that he probably deserves.
I want to bring up one big thing to you, Steve. So, do you know who Jared Cook played week 1 when he exploded? The same exact team that Kyle Rudolph was playing this week. Yeah, that's right. The Rams, of all teams, have proven to not be good against tight ends. So, if he pulls out Jared Cook, he could have a huge week.
So, now, the last thing I want to talk about is Pierre Garçon on Tyler's team, Jimmy Garoppolo being out. Those wide receivers are going to have a tough time finding big points. So you might want to look into starting someone else and possibly even dropping him later in the season depending on how things go. Because it's going to be tough for him to get those big points that you need.
Yeah, I'd say for this week you'd bench Pierre Garçon. See what his connection is with that new quarterback, Beathard. And if it's nothing, you just drop him. I mean, it hurts to do. I know he was drafted higher than most people want to be dropping a player, but if there's no connection and there's no chance, don't hold out for a small one.
You do have Kelvin Benjamin on your bench. Playing for Buffalo, still not a great option, but better than Garçon this week.
Drop him too.
There's not many wide receivers left in the league.
You should have grabbed some better guys. You should have grabbed some better guys this week.
Alright, now you got Evan Ingram who's going to be out this week.
He's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks.
Well, I'm talking about this week right now. Because this week there's no tight ends in the pool anymore. I mean, you got Jesse James is the one name that I know is in there right now. And honestly, you know what? You know what, guys? We're gonna look it up right now.
All right, I'm down for this.
We've got Austin Hooper. I mean, boomer bust guy ever since last season.
Austin Hooper, no.
Boomer bust. I mean, if Matt Ryan's going off, Austin Hooper might go off. But Jesse James there, Cameron Brate.
I don't even know when that waiver wire pickup would go through, if it would be in time.
Jesse James would go through on Friday, from Wednesday to Friday. It's a 2-day waiver. So as long as you put it in by Friday, it'll be there for the Sunday games.
All right, that's something at least.
Goddard from Philly. I mean, Zach Ertz is the number 1 guy there still. Austin Seferian-Jenkins on Jacksonville. Will Disley on Seattle. Antonio Gates. Actually, Rhett Ellison, he's the other Giants tight end, so maybe replace one with the other. But
out of all that, if I were to pick one up, I think it'd either be Jesse James for the hope that he pulls out a week 2 performance, but I very highly doubt it because Vance was returning from injury. But if you want another person, I'd say Austin Seferian-Jenkins because at least he'll be on the field to have a chance for it. And then Will Disley, he had a monster week 1 performance. Week 2, he didn't do much, but he got a touchdown. And then week 3 was his weaker week. So if you like that matchup, I'd say Will Disley is your best option for anybody that's watching that really needs a tight end. Go for that.
Or, full son on the rookies, Mike Gesicki for the Miami Dolphins.
Penn State.
All right. Well, obviously, when you do pick up another tight end, I suggest not dropping Ingram and dropping someone else like Pierre Garçon.
You can afford IR for a reason, yeah.
So
he's not on the IR actually, yeah.
He's out, so you can put him on IR for the 4 weeks.
I don't know if that's how that works. I think they need to be on IR. Anyways.
Nope. I got Greg Olsen, who's just out. He's on my IR.
Oh.
So
I learned.
As long as they're out or IR, you can put them on there. If they're doubtful, you have to take them off before adding someone. If they're on the IR, they go from out to doubtful. You can leave them there. But once they get completely cleared, you can't add anyone until you bring them back on.
All right.
Little word of advice, guys. All right, well, that covers it for this week. Long video, a lot to talk about, guys. Hopefully, you got the info that you wanted out of it this week.
Some good information this week, really good information.
And hopefully things work out with the best for everyone. I mean, half the league will like it, half the league won't. Unless there's a tie. You never know. We've got
I think
two
then
ties
both
in the
people
NFL
would be
this
very
year.
happy.
Hey, if I was coming back from being down big and got a tie, I'd at least be happy with that.
Alright, I'll take that.
But again, 50-50. Alright, guys. Well, that covers it for week 4 predictions. And we'll catch up with you next week to recap it. And then see how week 5 goes.
Alright, bye guys. Have
See
a good
ya.
one.
There you go. Now you can turn it off.